This is a review of the Trekkertent Saor DCF 4-season tent. I've had this tent customised, so it's a lot more heavy duty than usual. The base weight for this tent is about 1.1 kilograms, just under 1.2 kilograms. And my one's 1.6 kilograms, so it's quite a lot heavier. I'm using 0.8 ounce grey DCF instead of the usual 0.5 ounce DCF, so that adds to the weight. I'm also using 10mm poles instead of the usual 9mm poles, so it's going to be obviously a lot more robust than the standard version. I've had the inside changed so that it's 2-man inner rather than a 1-man with a vestibule. I find that I don't really use a vestibule. I tend to put my gear on the inside anyway, so I'd rather have the flexibility of being able to bring someone along for, you know, like a rather cozy winter camp than have a vestibule that I don't particularly use. So the tent shell, the inner and the bag that it's in, weigh 977 grams. As I said before, it's made out of a heavier duty grey DCF, which is Dyneema composite fabric. The 10mm DAC poles and the sleeve that they come in weigh 588 grams. As I say, these are much heavier duty compared to the 9mm. So all in all, it just makes for an incredibly strong winter tent. Should be able to stand up to any wind and snow load. The pegs that I use weigh 84 grams, including the DCF sleeve that they come in. These are carbon fibre stakes. I have them in 2 sizes, but most of them are 10-inch. They're extremely lightweight, but because they're so long, they just anchor really well. I like to always keep the pegs handy in a pocket so that I can use them. This tent is really easy to erect. The design is, it's a cross between the Hilleberg Unna and the Hilleberg Soulo. It's mostly based on the design of the Unna. The clip system that it uses is the same as what you see on the Hilleberg Soulo. Would have helped if it wore pants that fit me. So you just place one pole in the sleeve here and then place the same pole in the sleeve opposite. With the next pole you do the same, both opposite sleeves. It's really easy to set this tent up in really windy conditions. As you can see, it's almost all set up. All we need to do is go around and put in the clips, which are similar to what you would see on the Hilleberg Soulo, as I say. Very quick setup. I think it's most likely the easiest tent I've owned to erect. There's a vent there that just uses a simple rod, just velcro there, and there we have it. There's 4 more stakes to put the guy lines out, which I won't do today. I'll just do a little walk around. I quite like the colour scheme. I chose the grey DCF because it's a winter tent. So the back of the tent has a guy out point here, just to pull the inner out a little bit, and then down at the bottom there's a little section to give the tent a little bit more shape. So the ribbon comes around and then you can tension with the line locks. And as you can see here, the tension is put on the pole rather than on the fabric, so it just spreads the load a little bit. So it has a YKK waterproof zip that runs all the way along. Fly, motherfucker. So if you undo the zip, as with most tents, you can roll the front up so that you get a nice view. And then we just use the toggles here to keep it in place. I think I'm probably going to modify this so that it's a magnet, because I do find toggles a bit of a pain in the arse. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, my inner comes all the way to the end. The original design inner is probably maybe a foot inwards. I do have a criticism about these tents. The outer is really well made, but I do find that the inner is a little bit baggy, so I've had to modify it a little tiny bit. So on these, I've shortened the elastic, and then on the ones above, I don't know if you can see that, I've actually just completely removed the elastic. Get off, you little fucker. It's very tricky to do these one-handed. If you look on the inside, it's quite spacious. There we can see the inside now with the door shut. You can see there's quite a lot of tension on the inside now that I've made the adjustments that I explained just before. One of the biggest criticisms people have about DCF tents is how translucent they are, and it's definitely true. You know, you can see inside. You can't see detail, but you can see silhouettes. And as you can see, the light can come through the material quite easily. So I'll just set up a little bit of a sleep system so you can get an idea. So this is a single mat X-bed. This is my quilt. I'll just pop this around the corner. I use the new Flextail pump. I've always used Flextail pumps since they were released a few years back, but this one's an absolute game changer. The fact that you're able to reverse it and actually suck the remaining air out, it just means that you can pack, I don't know if you can see how thin that is. And basically, there's just no air in it whatsoever. The only time I'd ever seen it that compressed is when I first bought it, but you know, it was almost impossible to get without this being able to suck the air out. Wind's really picking up now, which is a little bit of a pain. First time I've ever done a review, and not the best conditions, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, shall we? Maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes to inflate. It doesn't fully, a lot of people complain because it doesn't fully inflate it, but it inflates actually to a good level, and then you just do a breath or two in there if you want it higher. As you can see now, it's just started to reach that point now where you're starting to see quite a big difference. And there we go. That's about as full as it's going to be with that pump. So if there's one complaint I have about this, it's that this button, I understand why they've done it. It's designed so that you don't accidentally press it, but actually it means that when you want to find it, it's almost impossible to find. You can't feel it. So anyway, here we have it. So this is a wide X-bed, and if I push that against the edge there, you can see that there's enough room for two. Obviously, if you've got two people in there, there's going to be no room for your gear. However, that being said, these are long, which I don't need because I'm a dwarf. I'll push it to this end over here so you can see. So there's actually enough room there to put some bags and your boots and things like that. But if I was actually going to be sharing this in the winter, I'd actually probably just have a bag on the outside that had my boots and things in, and I'd store my clothes at the end, or probably the foot end anyway. So So head height's not too bad. I mean, I'm not the biggest person ever. If you were to put 2 ultralight mats in here, I mean, you'd have tons of room. You'd have enough room for the 2 mats plus all of your gear. You wouldn't need to worry. So this is the Trekkertent Saor, or Saor. I'm not too sure how you pronounce it, but it's roughly that. It's made by a fella called Mark with a C who lives in Scotland. I'm not too sure if he's a one-man band or a small cottage company, but there's quite a long lead time for them. So when you order these tents, you need to be prepared to wait for a few months. I say they are really, really well made. The only criticism is the dinners are a little bit baggy, but now that I've made those little modifications, I'm happy with the inside now. You know, it's quite windy at the moment and it's not coming in. Originally, just move over here. Before I made the modifications, these 2 walls literally could touch in the middle. It was that baggy.